Well, everybody, the 2019 Boston Red Sox season is pretty much over, and what can I say but, that's pretty much my analysis here. I usually wait until the season is over, but let's face it, the season pretty much is over. There's just one game to go today, and most they can finish with is like 84 or 85 wins. That's how little I've been paying attention. And really since the beginning, and I've done a few rants on this, but again, I can't talk too much about a team that I care so little about. That's why I care so little about them. If I was really invested in them, hell, even when they were lousy, I would make rants about how angry I am at them. I'm not even angry. I'm not even like, oh, this team stinks, blah, 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 blah. I mean, they haven't been terrible. And at certain points, they were 10 or 15 games over 500, but, I just never got the feeling that they were ever going to go on that run or do anything amazing. Like, everybody was like, just wait for it, just wait for it. Yeah, well, I waited for it, and I got nothing. I will say, it really wasn't as bad a team as it turned out to be. Like, you look at the numbers across the board, they've got 4 players with either 30 home runs or, in Mookie Betts' case, 29 home runs. So, I mean, they've got a pretty loaded offense, and they had one all year. The pitching just stunk outside of Eduardo Rodriguez, and even his ERA is nothing great, but he has a chance to get 20 wins if he wins today. So, I mean, not like an awful team with awful players, but obviously a huge letdown after winning 108 games in the World Series last year. I didn't think they would do that again this year, but I thought they'd be more competitive. I guess, if anything, it's a small consolation that the wild card race and the divisions in general were a lot more competitive and, a lot more superior than past years. Like, with 85 wins, you might have been able to slip into the playoffs back in, 2015, but just so happened this year, with the Yankees and Astros winning over 100 games, the Twins winning in the high 90s, the Indians and Rays and A's all with, low to mid 90s in wins. Like, this was a year, you couldn't have like a mediocre season and still make it, which is also why I thought the Red Sox would make it. I thought there weren't enough good teams and they would somehow slip in there, but it turns out, I don't know, these other teams just wanted it more. Like Tampa Bay, with their small payroll and their kind of like piecemeal pitching staff, they found a way to get it done. Their manager kept them engaged. They, used relievers, used starters, closers, whoever they had to use to pitch. They used them all. And I mean, they made it happen. Then you look at the Red Sox, who have all this talent, and they just kind of squandered it. I mean, Bogarts had a career year. Rafael Devers emerged as like a superstar, and didn't really matter. And you had not one but 2 of those guys, plus Mookie Betts at the top of the order, plus J.D. Martinez, who we don't know if he's coming back. I mean, I know Rick Porcello, I know he won a Cy Young, but he's never been like a huge, ace pitcher, but he's better than what we saw this past year. And Chris Sale was just terrible. David Price was actually decent for the times he pitched, but then he kept getting hurt. Evaldi was pretty much useless. They acquired Andrew Cashner, which to me just kind of showed how little they cared. It was like, okay, they acquired like a 5th starter, and if he worked out, he worked out, but it turns out he really didn't, other than a few bullpen appearances. They sort of settled the closer thing with Brandon Workman. I don't know how confident I am with a full season of Brandon Workman as the closer, and I'm not even interested enough in this team to talk about what they should do next year or what they did wrong this year. Like, that's just kind of where I am. Like, they had a mediocre season. It was mediocre to watch. As soon as they played the Yankees or Astros or Twins, I knew they were going to lose, and they, more times than not, lost. And they lost to some really lousy teams, too. So, I mean, there's a reason they're only so many games over 500, and they just never played like a better team. I mean, little stretches here and there, and then as soon as they needed a game against Tampa Bay or the Yankees or whoever, they'd lose it. That must-have game, they'd lose it. I'd say their season was over. I mean, it was over a while ago, but if you want to be technical, I'd say like early September when they played the Twins. They had a 3-game series against Minnesota. They beat them convincingly in the first game. I think it was like a 6-game winning streak they had going. I think they were only 5 games out of the second wild card, and you were thinking, okay, maybe now they do something, and then they lose the next 2 games of that series. In the third game, they were down 2-1 in the ninth inning, and Devers gets thrown out running home. The Twins win the game, and I think that put them another game out of the wild card, and I was just kind of like, all right, that's it. And then sure enough, they play the Yankees, they lose 3 out of 4, and it's like, okay, we're done. And then after that, they started putting in the minor leaguers, and, the rest was just kind of history. So I'm not really going to go on too long. Like I said, 2019's over for the Red Sox. I'll watch the playoffs, but I'm not going to do any more playoff coverage this year, which is okay with me. I could use the break, and I'm quite frankly sure you guys could do without me yelling at the TV as much. So hope you enjoyed other baseball teams, because the Red Sox weren't much to look at. But, it's always next year. I'll do a rant on off-season stuff, maybe in November. So until then, keep on going, sports fans, and I guess next year, let's go Red Sox.